Welcome to another edition of ProSoft Training. In this video we will cover going over the PLX31 EIP SIE gateway. With the gateway plugged into a switch on the local network, we'll open the ProSoft Configuration Builder software. We'll then click on Default Module and select Choose Module Type. We'll select the PLX30 from the product line filter, and then from the drop-down menu we'll choose PLX31 EIP SIE. Now we're going to go ahead and expand the tree and right-click on the EtherNet configuration. Go down to Configure, and here we're going to change the IP address of the module that we're going to download to. So I'm just going to change this to 10.1.2.250, and I'm going to also change the gateway to 10.1.2.1. And we'll just click OK, and we'll go up to the module name, right-click on it, and we'll go to Download from PC to Device. Now once this is done, we're going to select Browse Devices, and this will launch our ProSoft Discovery service. Here we can right-click on the module and go ahead and configure the IP address to the actual module so we can download via Ethernet. And I'll just change it to 10.1.2.250, and once we're done here we just click OK and close that out. Now we'll go ahead and download to the destination address, which is 10.1.2.250. Okay, now we'll go over the EIP Class 1 connections. Number of connections may vary depending upon your module. They also have a 248-word input size and 248-word output size, and they increment by 250 words at a time, starting at input at 0 and output at 2000. I'm going to go ahead and leave all these as is. Now we're going to bring in the EDS file using RSLinks Classic. So I open up RSLinks Classic and I click Connections, RSWho, open up Ethernet IP, and choose our device, which is going to be 10.1.2.250. Now once we see our device, we'll right-click on it and choose Upload EDS from Module. Now we'll open up the EDS wizard. The first step, it's going to test the EDS, and it's going to show up that the tests were successful. There's no errors. It's going to show the graphic of our module, and the last step, it's actually going to register the EDS file. And now this is all done. Now we can just click Finish, and our EDS is now uploaded. And now you will notice that the image of our gateway shows up in RSWho in RSLinks Classic. Now we're going to configure an I/O connection to a ControlLogix processor version 20 or newer. Now we'll right-click on the Ethernet backplane, select New Module, and this is where we're going to choose the add-on profile from ProSoft. This is where we'll choose the EDS add-on profile that we uploaded in step 1, and it'll be filtered by vendors. So just go ahead and choose ProSoft Technology and select the PLX31 Ethernet IP module. Now we'll give it the name PLX30, and we'll give it the IP address of the PLX module, which is 10.1.2.250. Now here's where we're going to add I/O connections. So here we can add multiple connections. Your connections may vary depending upon your module. And we'll select OK, and we'll choose Yes to accept, and click OK. Now this is where it brings in all the input and output for each one of your connections. And that's really about it for adding I/O connections to a version 20 processor or newer. Next we'll be configuring our SIE Client 0. First we'll expand Client 0, then we'll actually configure the client. So I'm going to double click on the client, and the only thing we're going to change here is the retry count to 0. Default works pretty well. So I'll just go ahead and change the retry count to 0 and select OK. Next we're going to go ahead and configure the SIE Client 0 command. We're going to be adding a row. Now we'll select Edit Row. First we're going to enable this command. The internal address we'll just leave at address 0. The poll interval also at 0. We will change the registers to be 10 registers because we're going to write 10 words to our S7300. Now we're going to change the IP address. The IP address is going to be the IP address of the target device. So that is going to be our S7300. We're going to change that to 10.12.180. Next we'll select the PLC type. We're going to be using S7300. Next we're going to go over the rack slot and TSAP or TSAP. The TSAP is going to be only used with the S7200, and that's going to be specific to your application. This will be explained in your Siemens documentation or your semantic software. We're just going to leave this default as we're using an S7300. Next we're going to go over our function type, which we're going to be doing a write command. We're going to be transmitting integer data. The address type is going to be a data block in the semantic software. The database number and address. This will be all custom to your application. And then we'll just select OK. Once everything is configured, I'll download the configuration to the module again. And that will conclude another edition of ProSoft Training. Happy training!